All right. I want to move on to Steve. Steve is someone I asked to call back, and I want to take time talking to Steve because I think this is going to be really good. They want to defend, it says in the notes, defending debate bros on YouTube. And I think that's going to be an important one. Steve, you're live. How's it going?
Good, Eric. I called last week, and I must say, the fact that you chose that nutcase over me, if we're going to develop our relationship, and we're going to be able to, be our platonic, romantic together, I can't have you choose others over me. I just can't do it.
Well, I'll have you know, Steve, that I'm poly, and if you're going to be ownership-y, then I don't think this is going to work out.
Oh, no ownership. Just if you choose toxic people over me, that's where I'm going to get.
Okay, well, V's going to have the same view. I agree. But I do see value in showing how we should address that, which is, fuck you, no, we're done. So, Steve, you want to talk about debate bros on YouTube? Why the hell do you want to talk about this?
Okay, so I am a big fan of a lot. I watch a lot of what is called the debate bro debates online, the blood sports as it's called. There's a lot of terminology.
The intellectual dark web.
No, because that's usually associated with the right wing. I'm usually associated with the left wing version, which is they're usually just called debate bros. The intellectual dark web is usually considered Jordan Lee Peterson and Sam Harris. That usually debate right wing reactionary stuff. So I need to give a little context because I don't know how young your audience is.
Our audience skews older, actually.
Okay. So then everyone should remember between the years of 2012 to 2017, YouTube was a right-wing haven where
you get Thunderfoot and all of them.
Yeah. Left-wing YouTubers didn't have a place at all. No. Because every time a left-wing YouTuber would come on, they would get pile-drived by these massive YouTubers who would just send their fans to harass, attack them into oblivion until
dox
they just
them.
wanted to quit.
Yep.
Yeah, the anti-sjw warriors, right?
Oh,
yeah. But then, and also we can't forget Gamergate, which was a absolute
shit show.
Storm of attacks on anyone who was an who would be considered an SJW, who would be considered left wing, to the point where no one wanted to get involved. Mm-hmm. Now, what happened was, and I'm not saying this is a good thing at all, and if there was a better way for it to have happened, I would have been all for it. But I'm going to say what did happen and what came from that.
Okay, and then I want to interact with it on you here.
Yeah, of course.
With you.
And so there was a YouTuber and Twitch streamer by the name of Destiny who started out as a gamer.
Oh, I remember Destiny. Yeah, Destiny's still around.
Yeah. So yeah, he still is, and he still debates, and he is in this weird spot right now. But let's not get into that. We're just going to be in the historical context.
Okay.
So Destiny came out. And he started doing debates. And he, being the person who didn't really care about harassment, was able to put himself into these positions as a cis white male to debate what were in our terminology were basically Nazis who had control over the YouTube and Twitch spheres, and they were just going rampant. And it came to a head when he got into a debate with one of the biggest YouTubers on the site, JonTron. Mm. And we found out that these thoughts, these racist and misogynistic thoughts, were pernicious even in the most highest, people that weren't politically active, like JonTron. He started talking about how black people, even rich black people, cause more crime than poor white people. How immigration is bad for the United States. Yeah, really bad stuff. And Destiny and people like him were able to get out into the field. And yes, they used their privilege as cis white guys to be able to counter these massive YouTubers that were basically just Nazis or attacking anyone that had left-wing thought. If we didn't have that, YouTube probably still be in the same place it was 7 years ago.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I can see where you're going with that. I think that I don't necessarily attribute where we are now to Destiny, but I can see how you got there. I think that we collectively stopped seeing the value in it, and maybe I like, if some people were convinced through that, then maybe, but I don't see that as a cause as much as I see that as kind of just where the direction of things went. But I guess the better question, like the way I kind of want to phrase this and look at this is, so I am, I'm Mexican. And if somebody wants to call in and say that, Mexicans are, lazy or something like that, that there's something genetically inferior about me, should I debate them? Should I encourage other people who are not Mexican to debate them? And what's the value in that?
Well, Destiny himself is Cuban, which has been used against him in a lot of ways. But he's very white passing. And I think I've heard you talk about that being in that position as well. In the past.
My race, nationality, it has been entirely erased by people who said that I'm not Mexican enough. Got to pass the bar, man. Got to get through the gatekeepers. But go ahead.
And my girlfriend, who's black, is behind me, and she was just agreeing with you on that statement.
Right.
And anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I really saw a massive shift in the ability for the left to make a stand because of the ability these individuals who would be considered debate bros putting themselves in these positions. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of the idea that, they were saying there is this argument where a lot of the POC individuals who were in these spaces were already making these arguments, but they weren't being listened to. And that's a common problem. My stance is that with those unfortunates, we have to take the victories that we got. And the victories we got were, these cis white guys were able to put themselves in positions where they were able to argue, and also I believe, and I don't know if we can correlate this to any real numbers, but I believe that there was a dramatic shift in people who were being pulled into what was called the alt-right pipeline and being pulled away from that. There were a couple of YouTubers that say that's what they were, like Xanderhall. Xanderhall talks about how he was going down the alt-right pipeline, and because he was able to hear the arguments from people like Vouch, people like Destiny, he got yanked out of that and is now a left-wing YouTuber. Okay. And I think that's not an exception. I think that was something that occurred more often than not, because now people are able to hear these arguments.
So I would want to look at the data on that. And for people who are watching who are not super into crazy inside baseball, I'm sorry, but here. What about the debate? I know you'll know which one I'm talking about, with Sargon of Akkad and Thomas Smith. How many people were convinced by Sargon after watching that, and was it for good reason?
Thomas Smith, I don't know if I saw this one.
No, it was a shit show. It was not good. I think that there are some conversations that we should have, and there are others that we're deciding whether or not they're coming to the grown-up table. And I think that when it comes to arguing about people's existence, I just don't see myself making room for them at the adult table. I I I just don't, and I understand that while it could be convincing hearing the arguments, airing those arguments are also convincing other people. There's the entire view of platforming. I mean, heck, on this platform, if somebody has some really, really well worded, very dangerous ideas, it's a juggling act that we need to take here on this show of, hey, how much am I platforming bad ideas and how much am I able to actually like refute them? That is like, if you want to know my biggest nightmare is that, man.
Right.
And so
my counter to that though is that they had the platform at that time. It like we had shoot, I'm really bad with names, Eric, and I apologize.
that's okay.
But we had these individuals going to colleges and being able to voice their opinions unabated.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
It wasn't
you Ben
until
Shapiro.
we had people that were able to counter them and able to argue. Yes, there are. I got to watch the debate, but if the Thomas Smith and Sargon of Akkad debate was really bad, yes, bad debates can occur. But if we look back during the 2012 to 2017 era, they had the platform, and it was us forcing ourselves into those platforms. We were the ones getting platformed at that point. So in that timeline, we need to be able to, do we just say, no, we're not going to get into these debates when they are the ones that are voicing their opinions almost exclusively? Or do we take the bad hits, putting ourselves in those positions, but also we're able to actually get platformed?
It is a really tough conundrum. It is. I mean, here's another one. I'm listening. I just don't have like a great response to that because it's tough. I mean, that is an interesting point. I think that another interesting point to consider is how much are we perpetuating needing to look for the nearest cis het white guy to be listened to.
I agree with that.
And are we just perpetuating needing to find that as we move forward? When do we start recognizing and start integrating the fact that people of color have voices and opinions, and it's really fucking important to actually talk to and listen to the people who are impacted by, this rhetoric? It can and does perpetuate this supremacy of, cishet white opinions over other marginalized groups. And how do we go with that? Steve, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I have no idea. I think we're trying our best, but I cringe when I see Debate Bros because it feels to me like often it's somebody for people who were assigned female at birth. The idea of mansplaining, of you saying something and then having the nearest person with a penis repeat what you said so that everyone else can agree.
But we have to also
that.
understand that because the way culture is, and that's just the way, unfortunately, again, I hate the fact that this is the case, but pragmatically, even though I hate the term white. I think the term needs to, and the culture around it needs to be dismantled. I don't know what the counter, if this is the way the world works, if people in our culture will only listen to people that look like me, do I shut up and wait until they do listen to people who are POC? Because then what happens? Because then all the people that are making counter arguments who are being listened to are the only ones going to be listened to.
Yes. And I think there's definitely an argument to be made for the rest of the world just moving on without them. How many?
I don't know if I can believe that. In today's day, we are in a privileged position because we do have a platform. But remembering back to that time when we didn't, I don't know if I can agree with you on that.
Here's what I can tell you. V is writing the notes for this, and V is going to write the notes.
In chat, I can see her
for this.
She wants to come in, or they want to come in so badly.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you that the notes underneath this video clip are going to probably tear both of us a new one for things that I'm not thinking about right now. And I'm very excited to read them. But yeah, I you know what? Next time V's on, call in, because I think you're going to have a very different discussion with them. V, I think, puts more thought into this than I have, and that's just to V's credit. And I think you're going to have a more in-depth, thoughtful discussion with them than you would with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and my girlfriend really wants to talk to her too. So
I'm sorry.
So talk to them too. I'm sorry. Next time they are on and they're back home, I will call in and we will have a decent conversation with you both. How's that?
I think that sounds. Oh, hold on a second, Steve.
Oh,
you there?
I am here.
All right, Steve. I want to introduce you to V. V, Steve.
Hey, V.
Hi, V. Hello.
I feel like I just need to mute myself. Have fun.
Oh my gosh.
V, I've missed you. It's been a while.
Being in the chair.
Yeah, so we bound together in our secular heathenness, and now we'll see where the war goes.
Well, the things that I'm thinking here, and I do apologize because I've been working in a coffee shop, so I'm one of those awful callers who has background noise. My concern is not about the historical situations, in the same way that I can acknowledge that, like, Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins have done a whole bunch for the atheist movement, and we wouldn't be where we are right now without their influence. I can still call them bigots and outdated assholes. So for me, I think point taken. There are definitely situations where we are indebted to kind of awful people for accidentally making things better. Does that mean that we should stop calling them awful or stop holding them to account currently, now that we do have some modicum of power? I don't think so. So I'm sure you would agree with that, but I needed to call in and actually get that off my chest.
Yeah, I have never said that. Like if Vaush or Destiny or anyone like them, because Destiny's going down a right wing path right now, and I'm not happy about that, and I've been calling that out too. Yes, I am fully acknowledging that we need to still keep the people that are voicing the progressive side of things to account. I'm not saying that. I am just saying that they have their uses, and they are able to put themselves in these positions that, unfortunately, again, I hate that this is the case, that POC cannot do or are not allowed to do. Because of this, I mean, and the fact that, like, for example, in some of these circumstances, there are certain circumstances I don't want a POC to be involved. Like Destiny would go into the kill stream, for example. I would not want a POC to have to deal with people like that at all. They're just straight up Nazis, right? I wouldn't want the blowback that would come from a discussion in that caliber to come to a POC in that circumstance. Destiny's able to, because he's white passing, to put himself into that position and not take as big of a hit and get slurs. I mean, he had slurs thrown at him, but there are certain circumstances where I think people who are considered white to be put into these circumstances where we can put our opinions out in circles that would not necessarily hear a progressive side.
Right, but the problem there becomes, okay, unfortunately we are in this power imbalance situation, but what happens when Destiny then goes and says, well, I'm non-binary too, ha ha ha, and, throws slurs around in other areas? He has now set himself up, and we have allowed him to set himself up as kind of this beacon of progression against these groups. And the problem there becomes we have lionized somebody with really bad ideas because they might not be as bad as the worst people in other ideas. And I'm just saying we have options. We can move into areas where that is not the people we need to celebrate.
Here's a question then. Would you rather have a lot of what would the terminology here would be a group of ever-growing what is considered edgy progressives versus people just staying in the alt-right?
Honestly, I think that edgy progressives have a marginal effect on who actually becomes alt-right and who doesn't. In fact, I think that a lot of the time they end up, pushing people down that path, unintentionally perhaps, in the opposite direction. Because if people watch us, and then they watch Welsh, and then they watch Destiny, then they're currently getting exposed to all of these horrible ideas. And if they don't have correct epistemologies or a good background, they're going to start falling for that. So I don't think the progressive, edgelord, YouTube savior thing is actually useful. Yeah, some people definitely say that they are the reason they got out. Other people say they're the reason they got in.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been any real statistics on that, on whether, how many people have been pulled back and forth. I've, of course, being in the circles I only hear of the people that did get pulled out. Not being in the alt-right circles, I don't hear about, I listened to a debate with Destiny or Vouch and I went even further in. So I don't know. That is something we would have to see numbers on that I don't think exist. But besides that,
hold on, because the numbers don't go in one direction. You are making an assumption that those edgy people, that there are, like, that assumption is based in the same place. There's not evidence that what you think is happening either.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we have the numbers either way. Yeah.
Right. And I'm gonna hang up just because it's very loud out here, and I'm keenly aware that that's probably coming through. But thanks for talking to me, Steve. And definitely feel free to call back and continue this once I'm back online.
Oh, of course. And my girlfriend really wants to have a conversation with you as well. She almost broke my leg. Because she listened to the conversation you and I had, V, and she also has questions about the secular pagan identity and stuff.
Ooh.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. To be continued.
Cool. Sounds good.
Hey, V.
Yeah.
Hey, V, I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Steve, stick around.
Eric, you just made my girlfriend squeeze. So.
All right. Hey, I feel like there's so much more conversation to be had, and there's so many other points that I feel like in not bringing up 10 million things, I'm doing a disservice to the conversation, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah. I do have one more question before I move on. And that is that I'm kind of wondering what is fueling the want for this conversation. Is it an affirmation that there's use there in not seeing anyone making that affirmation? Is it something else? Because I can absolutely imagine being like, it looks like no one sees value here, and I just need that affirmed. Is that what's going on?
No, I think it's just a talking point that I think needs to be flushed out. If this is actually, like, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong that debate bros have any real use in the sphere that they're in. And if I am wrong, then I would like to be informed of that. But I just saw that they did, and I still do. That
is all right. I think that it is very, very complex, and it totally depends on the audience and the people who are watching. And I don't know, man. I don't know. But thank you for calling. This was fun.
All right, Eric. Until next time, love you, and
love you too. Take care.
And try to keep out toxic relationships with crazy theists. Okay.
I'll do my best. Take care. Before we move forward, I do want to say that this show is brought to you by you. If you like what we do and you want to support us, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. You can get an ad-free version of the podcast, an ad-free version of this show, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we're going to be reworking things. We want to make sure that people are enjoying what they're getting out of their patronage. I know that it's a time where a lot of people are having kind of other things coming up, and we totally understand it for people who needed to drop their Patreon support recently. We totally get it. Your lives and your well-being comes first, and we are just happy that you're still supportive of the show. We haven't gotten any feedback that was negative, so cheers to that. But yeah, also we've hit some really big goals, and we're really happy, but we do have more. And if you want to see some of that stuff happen before sooner than later, I did put a list of things that we're going to be getting for the set and for the production and all that on a Amazon wish list. There's the link. I feel really weird and icky about bringing that up, but I know that people want to see it. And hey, hit the like button, hit subscribe. That is a really, really great way to support this show. It gets us out in front of other eyes. The algorithm can see that people like it. So please take that time, smash the like button, hit subscribe. We're not going to pester you, but we do put up regular clips almost every day. We put up relevant posts in our community tab. And yeah, so thank you for that.